what's up, ladies and guys? So got picked up another project. Gonna see if I can get this up and running, cleaned up, pressure washed, and expand my business. Add another service to my small company. This is a travel or a little portable mobile storm drain vacuum. It has a 20 horsepower Kohler command engine. The muffler's completely rotted out, don't mind that. It's gotta be pressure washed and painted, and I don't have any hoses for it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it all apart, buy all new hoses, do all new seals, paint it. Gonna pressure wash it all, paint it all, make it nice, buy a new hose. And basically what happens is, this is the intake, and that's a water discharge, and that is how you discharge the solids, and it has a forklift holes. So you could load this in and out with a forklift. As you saw, I just lifted it in and out with the mini excavator. And the one thing I will do is I will fabricate hooks on this to make it safer for me to lift up with the excavator by myself. Luckily, I had my kid here for the weekend, so he was able to help me get it out of the truck. It weighs 950 pounds. It has a 5-gallon gas can on it. The vacuum gauge does not work. It needs some maintenance. It's old and tired, but it works. It has strong vacuum. So that's the name of it. It's a Trav-L-Vac 300. I seen them online. I checked out the manufacturer's videos. It's pretty cool. This right here is where you discharge the solids. Right there. And the water comes out right there. So you can hold 90 gallons of pure water. I think there's supposed to be a valve. I think there's supposed to be a ball valve on the end of that. So I got to do my research. But it'll hold 90 gallons of pure water. It has an auto shut off switch on it right there. So if it hits pure water up to that point, it kills the engine. You shut down the engine, and then all the water pours out of here. And then your hose is up to here. So it's a pretty neat little toy. And we're going to see what we can do with it, get it up and running. And you never know, I might use it for pressure washing. I might fabricate something to hook it up to my surface cleaner for pressure washing the polymeric sand out of pavers. We will see. Well, I will keep you informed on this upcoming project. I'm kind of excited about it. I always like trying new adventures for my company, new services, seeing if I can find more customers to do different tasks. I get bored real easy. So yeah, so I picked that up yesterday. So we'll be seeing that in some videos in the future. And I picked up this pneumatic hammer for the excavator. Not for this excavator, but it's for an excavator or a bobcat. But you got to have an air compressor, I do believe, to operate it. I'm not familiar with it, so I'm doing research on that also. So I got some projects going on. I started the log splitter inside there, converting that horizontal vertical log splitter into a splitter that goes on the excavator, so I don't have to pick up the big rounds. So that's in the garage right now. So I started that project. And other than that, it's a nice, easy winter morning or afternoon, but it's also about 50 degrees out, so it's nice weather. I'm going to open it up. I'm hoping the filters are in there. There's supposed to be like some type of filtration system in here that's washable and reusable. So that's what I'm doing. First time, I haven't even opened. I got to take off all the bolts, and then that lid pops open. So let's get that open, and we will see what happens with it. As you can see, they are 3/4 inch bolts, I do believe. Yep, 3/4 all the way around. And then this will lift up, and like I said, on the back side of this, there should be some filters hanging down underneath there. Fingers crossed. Let me go get the impact gun. All right, fingers crossed. I have you on wide angle, make it a little easier for you to see. But here's what's inside the tank. The vacuum goes in here, the hose comes across. Oh, and this vacuum gauge I need to replace. Comes across. This is a diverter. I think there was supposed to be, I got to weld a plate on here. It looks like it wore through. There should be a diverter here to shoot the stuff down. But there's a pit. Here is a high water shut off. And that's all that does. Not sure if that works, but we'll figure it out. That should kill the engine. But I'll clean that all up and stuff like that also. And then as for a gasket, this just looks like they used not a pool noodle, but pipe insulation. So that's going to be easy to replace. Let me turn this light, and here's a filtration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cover off, and then there's a mouse nest or something in there. And then we're going to take that out, and it's supposed to be washable. You're supposed to be able to wash it. And I got to do some research to see if there's supposed to be another filter on top of here or not, like a foam filter. I might put one on there. If they don't have one, I might put one. I don't know. We'll have to see what it looks like and what kind of information I could find. This is an older unit, but it does run and it does create good vacuum. As a blower, one duck underneath the hose. It has a nice big blower down there. Big old roots blower. So I think with a little bit of maintenance, it'll suit my purpose. And if not, it'll just be fun anyways. So here's what we have. This has been modified over the years. That's the exhaust, or that's the vacuum. That's what's going to be created. That goes to the blower. And that's where your filtration system is. And here's the filters I took out of there, or the filter. This thing weighs a lot. Look at this. This thing is completely caked. I think this is just a shop vac filter they put on there. And that's the mouse nest that I took out. But this thing here is paper. This should not be heavy at all. This thing weighs probably 5 pounds. I mean, it is surprisingly heavy. So that is definitely clogged. So I'm glad I started tearing this apart before I ran this thing too much. Only time I ran it one time there to make sure the engine ran. And then I ran it once here when I got it home off the truck. I do believe it. Yeah, that's it. So there, look at all that garbage. So I'm glad I did that. And now I'm gonna see what else I can find online for filtration systems. So that's pretty much it for here. I can't run it without a filter because you don't want any dirt going into that blower because of the tolerances. And like I said, this gasket here, all they used was they even taped it together with duct tape. Just a cheap little pipe gasket or pipe insulation on there. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. Obviously, I need new. But I might see if I can find a rubber gasket for here also. Because the tighter you get all the seals, the better vacuum you have. I've never run one of these, used one of these before. So this is going to be a learning experience. So we got that open. Now that answered the question about the filtration. Answered the question about this gasket. Now we just got to worry about that. So I think the next step is to get this back outside and to pressure wash this entire thing. Inside and out. And get this thing clean. And then we can go through, and like I said, that has to have a plate on it. So I got to cut a piece of metal here as a deflector to shoot that down. Otherwise, this is just shooting right into the filter. But it's supposed to shoot down into the bottom, so the heavies stay down there. So it's dark outside, so I was going to pressure wash it tonight, but I'm not going to do it in the dark. So let's close this, get it ready at least to pressure wash. Well, that's pretty much all I can do until I wash this thing and get more parts. So I got to do a filter check to see what kind of filter I can get for it. And muffler, sounds like a Harley Davidson right now. So right now it has a dual, because normally this engine has a muffler back here and it can't, so it's a side mount. So this muffler comes across, picks up the 2 cylinders, coming across and comes down. So maybe I'll even get an old tractor muffler like this. This is a silencer for the air leaving a vacuum. But maybe I gotta make sure that falls down too. I threw a little penetrating oil in there, but once I pressure wash it, that should go up and down easier. That's all mouse nest crap. And then I might just come out here and go up with a stack muffler like this. We'll see. I gotta see what I can find. Tachometer's broken. Those are pretty self-explanatory. I really don't care about the hour meter, I should say. Oh no, digital tach and hour meter, so it's both. Needs a new or should use a new air filter. There's new oil in it, but it's an old filter, so I get a new oil filter for it also. I might have one on the shelf. And I'll take it out tomorrow during daytime if the weather's above freezing or close to freezing. And I will pressure wash this inside out. I stuck a rag inside this tube. I can't get this vacuum tube off. I just don't want any more debris than necessary going into that turbo. All right, that's it for today. I got the light on over here, so now you can actually see the mouse nest. I mean, I can't even describe how heavy this filter is. This is absolutely a heavy, heavy filter. So maybe I'll just see if I can get a wet and dry vac filter for it, like this one, but as large as possible to fit in there, because that's a street sign. This is what they use to hold it in. It's just a street sign. So obviously that's not normal. They had some other kind of filtration system in it. So I'll do more research. All right, that's enough rambling. Goodbye. Well, that's as much as I can do today. I pressure washed it. I started pressure washing it, and then I had to work on that Lexus that pulled in the driveway. Then I finished pressure washing it, and I switched to my bigger pressure washer because I want to get as much loose paint off as possible. And You can see there's a lot of rot on here. Busted off the gasket. I'll replace this piece of metal, or I'll weld a new piece on. And then I also noticed, if you go inside the tank, the inside has a caulk all the way around it, like a sealant, and a lot of it was missing. But there's a door, but look right there. See that? That's good thing I pressure washed it. There's a rust hole right there, and that's right next to the water drain. So I'll fix that. I got to weld that deflector on here. I'm going to paint the hole inside. I'm going to paint the outside. I'm going to keep it white. It's going to be easier to paint it white. I'm going to get a new gasket for here, or I'm going to make a gasket or whatever. And I actually talked to the manufacturer of these today, and I actually ordered the proper filters for up here. So those are going to take about a week to get in. So the next step for me is going to be letting it dry overnight. And then I have to weld the deflector on that, weld that hole up. I'm going to call them again and ask them if that's normal that they put a big caulk seal around the bottom there, because it's welded all the way around the outside. So I think they just seal it up all the way around. See the white down there? So I'm going to call them tomorrow, ask them about that. I get a seal for this. The hose is good. I got to get a muffler still. Those are a lot more expensive than I want to spend on this thing. But I got to get a muffler. So I might jerry rig that with a tractor muffler. Just come up with like a smokestack like this. We'll see. And then I got to get a 2.5-inch hose. They come with a 15-foot hose, but they're like $700 or $600 through the manufacturer plus shipping. So I'm going to check locally to see if I could find a 2.5-inch hose for this. And then also in the next 2 days, once it dries, I'm going to paint it. That was the whole point of pressure washing it. I want to paint it to make it look halfway decent. I was going to change the color. All my equipment's gray, my little stuff like this, but this is too much white paint, so I'm just going to keep it white. And then I'm going to talk to them about getting all new decals once I get it all painted and see what it looks like, maybe. Or I might just put my logo right there. All right, well, that's it for today. Gonna let it dry today and tomorrow morning. And then I will climb inside. I'm gonna actually fasten this. So just in case the hose is kind of pushing it forward. So I'm gonna make sure it doesn't trap me in there. And I also put it up on a 2x6. So it's not flat on the ground. See, I can kind of move it around now. So if I need to, I can get a jack underneath it, or I could spin it around by hand a lot easier. All right, so that's it for today. We'll see what it looks like once I start climbing in there tomorrow and doing some repair work on it. So I ended up going to my buddy's metal shop, and he cut me a piece of steel that is the same size for the door that this rusted one was. He also gave me another piece of 1/8 inch that I'm gonna cut into smaller pieces just to weld over that hole right there. And I think there's another hole right there. Yep, you can see it right there. And I'm gonna do those patches from the outside, put the metal patches on the outside, obviously. And then I also got a 1/4 inch piece. It's gonna be hard to see with the light, the lack of light in here, as a deflector right there. So this one wore off. So I haven't decided, I might just throw this on an angle just to make it simple welding. Just stick it like that and not worry about cutting it. But we'll see. See how the day goes. I only got a little bit of time to work on it today. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to cut off this thin rusty part, whatever I can, and then the new one will be welded, excuse me, right to it. So you may be asking, why did I get the cutting torch out? Well, somebody welded this plate on, but there was in this gap here and in this gap here, there's a huge pieces of rusted expanded steel in there, so the new plate wouldn't sit flat. So I just heated it up to see all the rust, to just knock all that out so I can hammer this flat and that flat, so the new plate will sit flat right on here. And then while I have the cutting torch out, I also, there's a rust hole here, right there. So I heated that up to melt the paint off of it, just make it easier to weld a new patch on. And there's a tiny, tiny, tiny little air hole right there. So I'm gonna put a patch over that also. So I just heated it up just to burn off all the paint. But while I have the cutting torch out, I am gonna go scribe this on that angle, and I'll cut that so it fits better on the deflector. And this little piece of scrap steel here is what I'm gonna use to weld up those two spots. So what I'll do is I'll just cut a couple pieces off of that while I have the cutting torch out. So we have a change of plans. This metal, I am not a good enough welder of thin metal to weld there. So what happens is I make the hole bigger. Maybe put the light down in there, you can see it. There you go. So I made the hole bigger. So I'm gonna abandon the idea of welding it. And I am actually going to put the 2-part JB weld over it and go from there. The metal I got, and I did good down here until right there. I got a nice, I got sealed all the way around until right there. And then I burnt through that because that's rusted. So what I'm going to do, or just super thin, and I am a horrible welder. So what I am going to do is I am going to clean those areas up here and here, those 2 light holes. And I'm going to JB weld it. Like I said, doesn't have to be perfect. And then, well, I didn't say that, but I'm telling you now, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's not gonna be perfect. And as for the deflector, that's 1/4 inch steel. I can weld that. Here's the deflector. So that's gonna get welded like that. Just like that. And then that way, you can see there used to be a plate there, and it probably was only that big. Well, I'm gonna put a bigger one like that, and it deflects it down more. So I forgot I had to weld this, and I already put the welder away. So I gotta take the welder back out, and I'm gonna do this. Once I get this welded on there, and I get the JB weld on that, I gotta spray the inside of here, or I'm going to spray the inside of here and the lid, all the heavy rust areas, with a rust inhibitor. And then I got to get it outside because I have to do brakes on a car. So one of my cars. So I'm going to just weld this on there and then move on to the next project. Sorry for the noise, I got the heater on. All right, so I did JB weld there. Let me take you off wide angle. There you go. So I got JB weld there, patched that hole that I made bigger. I actually JB welded over my entire metal patch there. Got it nice. I should have it sealed, but I also went on the inside on both of them and sealed and made it nice and thick and messy on both of them. And I did the bottom there too. That's the water discharge hole right there. So I did both of them on the inside and the outside. Here's that patch, the 1/4 inch plate I put on here for a deflector to shoot the stuff down so it doesn't blast a hole through the back side of the wall. And if this system works, I'll probably invest in getting a new tank. So I just don't want to go too crazy dumping money and time into this until I know the whole system works. Yes, I know I'm spending a lot of money on it anyways, but that's half the fun. So once I know this whole system works for what I want it to do, then I will adventure possibly into, you know, getting a whole new tank. I could take a big propane tank and make a lot stronger one with propane, like an old propane tank, cut the top off. So, but for now, this is good. I'm gonna let that stuff cure up for a little while, and then I'm gonna spray the inside with some rust inhibitor. And I sanded this down also because this is where the gaskets are gonna go. So I don't have the gaskets yet, but I wanted to, while I had the grinder out, just put a brush onto them. And then I'm gonna spray the whole inside with a rust inhibitor, let that sit for 24 hours. Then I'm gonna paint the whole inside with some leftover brush-on Rust-Oleum paint that I have, just to give it an extra layer of protection for a little while. And then I'm gonna spray paint the outside white. I think I only have black paint for the inside, which I don't care about. I don't care what color it is. So that little hole there is for your pressure gauge, which I also have to get a new one of because this one doesn't work. All right, so I'm pretty much done for a while. I'll see you on the other side.